There's Nels.
There he is. It's 4:30. Let's call this regularly stated board meeting to order. Katie, please collect the roll.
Mrs. Sealing?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Winbolt?
Here.
Mr. Updike?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell? Here. And Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to next agenda item, which is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's moved and seconded for approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or discussions? Katie, please collect a vote.
Mrs. Sealy?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Wimble?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for being here, board members. Thank you for being in attendance today. Moving on to recognitions, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this next part. Just a brief little history. I'm going to ask the students to go ahead and come on up and their microphone. I'm going to talk for a minute so you can gather your thoughts. But a few years ago, board members went to a national conference. And at that conference, they learned about some different school boards that actually had student advisors. And so the board brought that back and said, we'd like to hear from the students, like to have them share their thoughts and ideas, concerns with us. So I have a very auspicious group that we've been getting to meet with. And I've asked them to basically their name, their grade, and what school that they're presenting. And then after that, they're going to share some things that we've been working on. And then board, you're more than welcome to ask any questions. So Coral, we'll start with you.
Hello, my name is Coral Callan. I am a senior and I go to Spring Hill High School.
I'm Marley Saxon, and I'm also a senior at Spring Hill High School.
I'm Logan Kilby, and I'm a junior at Spring Hill High School.
I'm Hadley Booz, and I'm an 8th grade at Spring Hill Middle School.
I'm Eli Sprague, and I'm an 8th grader at Woodland Spring.
Hi, I'm Corinne Harris, and I am an 8th grader at Spring Hill Middle School.
I'm Raya Falkenrath, and I go to Woodland Spring Middle School. I'm an 8th grader.
And we've got a few students that, because of other commitments, couldn't be here tonight. And so with that, you want to share some ideas and some things that we've been discussing, and then we'll give the board a chance to ask you questions.
Okay, I guess I'll do it. So we were picked by our principals pretty much so me and Marley are the presidents of the senior class. And pretty much at these meetings, we all get together in wide variety of age groups and just talk about what's going on at our school, what we're all involved in, what we noticed. So we've talked a lot about school dances, clubs, let's see. Yeah, school lunches, that's been a big topic too, as you guys probably know. And yeah, we've made a lot of changes. So far, we got a Saturday dance, which is super exciting. We're all really happy about that. And we tried to get the middle schoolers men's skis, which was fun. And I don't know, it's really cool to talk about it all with everybody and get their opinions. What else?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We've just gone over a lot of different things. It's good to hear from the middle schoolers and the high schoolers together, so we get everyone's ideas together. But yeah, I think our big changes that we've made is winter homecoming is a Saturday dance now. And the middle school lunches, I know they were struggling with getting lunches in the later hours because they would run out of food. So I know we worked with that, and I think that helped with the middle school a lot. Yeah. So those are big things we've done so far.
And Bronco assistance, that's been a big topic too. Figuring out Bronco assistance.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so working through all of those problems and trying to figure out how it benefits us and how it benefits teachers and everything, and trying to figure out a way to adapt to all of those changes.
A couple of things that we talked about is that they have to be representative of their whole grade level. And so they can't just depend on going to their friends, but they have to get out of their comfort zone and go find other students. Every school has lots of leaders, and some leaders are very easily identifiable, but some other leaders aren't as easily identifiable. But if you're going to be truly representative, you need to go talk to these people. And so I think they've done a good job. I think for some of them out of their comfort zone a little bit and go approach people and say, hey, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. One of the big things that we were very clear on is we had to hear from everybody. If you're going to be on there, an eighth grader's voice is just as important as a senior's voice. And so we wanted to hear everybody's point. And I will give all the kids a great students, give them kudos, because if they feel like somebody's not talking or representing, they'll pause and ask them their opinion. And so, and then we've also decided that everybody can bring their opinions, but some opinions or some ideas may not be good. And if we're going to attack an idea, it's attack the idea, not the person. And so it's okay to disagree and do it in a courteous way and make sure it's about the idea, not the person. So very proud of this group. You want to tell them why a Saturday dance is a big deal, both sides. Why do you want it? Why didn't we want it? And then kind of what we worked through on that.
So basically, I mean, everyone in the high school wanted a Saturday dance just because you get to dress fancy and you get the whole day. So it's almost like a mini prom in a sense. And it's easier, and then you don't have to like rush after the games to get ready and all of that. And so for you guys, the biggest issue was obviously drinking at the dance or prior to the dance and things like that. So we were trying to figure out a way to like, we win, you win type deal. And so we came to the conclusion of breathalyzers at the dance, which has been very good. And I think we've all talked, especially at the high school, about this and have been like, okay, we got to start a dance. And everyone's like, oh, yay. And then we're like, okay, but we have this. And everyone has been very accepting of it. And it's definitely worth it, I think. And we'll also help them in the future too. When they come up, maybe you don't have to deal with, I mean, not deal with Friday dances were great. And we were so glad to have them, but, but you guys could have them on Saturdays too. That's the goal.
So they're all available and ready and excited to answer any questions that you have.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Super excited.
Do you guys have anything to say?
Very good. So number one, thank you very much. This has been something we've been talking about for a while. And Dr. Berg mentioned we were at the National School Board Conference in Philadelphia 2 years ago, and 2 or 3 even, yeah.
Maybe 3.
And had a lot of conversations with districts from all over the country that had implemented a process. And so we kicked it around quite a bit because we weren't exactly, what does it look like? And it looks like it's really going well. One of the key outcomes is that we're after is to enhance that communication between students, administration, and the board, so that there's more of an exchange. And so one of the questions I had of each of you, because I want to hear from all of you, is has this helped in being heard or being listened to? I guess that's really an important question from my perspective. Has it helped do that? And we're looking forward to continuing it, but has it helped you feel listened to or heard?
I think it definitely has. We've talked to a lot of people at school about it and just basically asking them what they're wanting, because that's the point. We have a voice on the school board.
Right.
And so people really get excited when they're like, oh, like anything, we could tell you anything that we want to change. And so
Sure.
we get lots of funny ideas, but we also get good ones that you would never think of on your own. So it's good to hear other people's opinions about things.
Sometimes odd ideas bounce into other really great ideas. And
Yes,
so
definitely.
just hearing that. Well, good. We're glad. I mean, I'm glad to hear this. It's that it's being well received. What's the general reaction when one of the things I commend each and every one of you, you should celebrate having the courage to step outside of your network and go talk to people that maybe you haven't talked to before or haven't talked to very much. So what is the general reaction to other students when you approach them with this? Hey, this door's wide open. What do you want to do?
Let's let some of the 8th graders answer.
Yeah.
we'll put them on. Corinne's never had a problem telling us. And I say that in a very positive way. You have an eighth grader in with all these upperclassmen, and she's very well spoken, speaks her mind, and has very clear, concise thoughts. And so I think we're all very impressed. So I'm picking on her a little bit in a very positive way.
Basically, the reaction of people, like if I could just go up to them and say, hey, I need an opinion from you. They're like, whoa, wait, somebody actually wants an opinion from me. Like they're not used to the fact that somebody wants to hear from them and they want to change something about it. So I feel like people are more used to not really having a say, but this feels like everybody can just have their own opinion and actually get input to benefit everybody instead of just one person. They feel like making all the decisions. They feel like, hey, I can come to you and I can talk to you and we can just bounce off our ideas off of each other instead of just somebody making the consecutive idea over like everybody else. It basically is just like a shared opinion of everybody instead of just one biased opinion versus something else. So people can actually like understand and make decisions for the benefit of everybody else, basically.
Anybody else?
I'll go ahead and say something. So most of my friends, I've gone up to them during lunch or during passing period. I'm like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think of it? And they'd give me like opinions, key details, and then I like put it all, piece it together. And then sometimes I'd go to the superintendent advisory, normally on Wednesday mornings, and I'd say something about it or I'd write it down. And then sometimes I'll go to teachers and maybe tell them about it. So I'm in student council and I also go and talk about it to them just to see like what their opinions about it, if they have any other ideas. And yeah.
I love being able to talk to my classmates because I feel like it's a lot more personal, being able to talk to a peer about something you want changed in the school. Like it's not like a survey or just like an email. It's someone asking you, what do you want? Because then you're able to see like what they see in the school, something that you might miss. And I just think it's a really great way to hear from everyone. And it's more of like a win-win situation. Like we said, we're able to work alongside our superintendents to do things that benefit everybody. So that's what I really enjoyed about it.
I feel like more people are like confident, like you're picking me, like I have a voice in this, and it's like people are more confident like to talk to us about like what they want and what they need. And it's just really cool to see how like other people's opinions on what they want. And it's like you think this way, but it's like other people think this way, and it's cool to like bounce ideas off each other. That's my favorite part.
I feel like it's solved a lot of problems for our school because some of our students like they destroy school property and they're mean to other students. But I feel like it's because they're trying to get the attention of someone and they want to be heard. So I feel like asking other people what they want has fixed a lot of issues.
I'd like to know if you've received any unsolicited ideas or advice. Just people coming up to you in the halls and saying, hey, I know you asked me before, hey, I just have this idea. So do you have any unsolicited or had that happen?
I had
definitely on lunch. Like
I had someone today ask me if we could not come to school for the next 2 days. Or next week.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't need to come in for 2 days, so you can bring that up. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll go ahead and bring that one up.
And you did.
Exactly. So there you go.
Those finals, I don't think we can just get rid of those.
We don't need them.
The one thing that's been really nice too is we've been able to share information too. Bronco hour, and that time is very important to the students and they really want to hang on to it. And because of the timing and because of the way the auditor looks at the time, we're having to pause and try to figure out a way to accommodate that. And so instead of people just being mad and thinking, well, they gave it to us and took it away, and why? I know that Mr. Williams brought some of the students in and shared with them, hey, this is what's going on. I need you to help communicate. And I think you guys did. And I think that calmed the waters a little bit because they understood, first of all, we weren't taking anything away. We're trying to preserve it and continue so that the students can have it. But more importantly, they know what's going on. Nobody's doing anything underneath or behind. They know what it's doing. And plus it gave them an idea that Mr. Williams is actually really fighting for something that they want. And so it's kind of nice to be on the same side with something.
I'm extremely excited about this. So Doug, it must have been 3 years ago because.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 3 years
Well, and the
ago.
only reason I remember that, I was sitting in the audience and I'll never forget, they came back from a conference. So it was before I was on the board. And the phrase was, don't make decisions about me without me.
Yeah.
And that has kind of become like my mantra. I want to hear from all of you, but I also think we bring a lot of different perspectives as various board members. Some of us have students and some of us don't, but having those, for those that don't, to have you guys come and be a part and give that feedback is invaluable. I mean, and I just like he said, not just from your friends. So I might hear from my friends' kids or my kids' friends, but I want to hear from the whole school too. And I know that there are things that are a big deal. That the dance on Saturday night, that's been a big deal for a long time. We've been talking about it for years. But I love that you came up with solutions. I think that the example that you set in leadership to your schools and your classmates is outstanding in that. But also no idea is small. That's the other thing I wrote down as you were talking. So it might be that we wanted Minsky's at the middle school, but that's not, it might seem like that's just pizza, but just feeling like you're heard is valuable, and feeling like your students are being heard is so valuable, and it's valuable to us as well. So just wanted to say thank you and how much I appreciate all of your time.
Want to thank you guys for volunteering and giving up your time to do this. It's a big deal. And if there's anything you want from us, don't hesitate to ask. Anything you want us to do, but make sure you let us know. So we're here to listen.
We did talk about Ferraris for seniors.
Oh, yeah.
We don't think we can make that happen, but
What color? What color?
well, red, obviously, right? Or purple. So what'll happen now, obviously board can talk to them more, but from this, we'll start the first meeting each month. We're gonna have 2 people come at a time so that they're not alone. And then they'll represent the group. We do have a couple of principals and a counselor that's also part of that group. And I really like the free flow because I told them that I was going to talk a lot on the first meeting and then I'm going to speak less and less. And it's been nice last couple of meetings. I've not said much at all. So that's very nice. Anything else you guys want to share or anything else the board wants to ask?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I'm really excited to see where this leads, because whenever you kind of start something, I know when I think Nels and Brent, maybe you brought this back from the meeting, and lots of districts were doing this, but everybody kind of had their own flair to it. And so I think with some great leaders like you guys, and next year too, we'll be able to kind of hone it so it meets our needs and meets your needs. So that's exciting for me to think about.
Do you have any doubt or any questions about what I mean, it's pretty free form, but about what, I hate expectations is a really strong word, but is it real clear about what the intent is? I know it's free flowing, right? I mean, but it's clear that it's bring the Ferraris for seniors and then let's not go to school for a couple of days because maybe it's, maybe something falls out of that. So, good. Very good. Well done. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight, especially. Right, very good. Moving on to Jason Winbolt. Mr. Winbolt is, this is actually his last meeting. Won't you meet me down? This is his last meeting on the board for now, and we had a little bit of something for him. I'll go down there. So we did get you, everybody hear me? We did get you, we got you like 8 years of service. It's been 8 years. Number one, I want to appreciate your professionalism, the ideas you had. We've all grown to know you as a very strong, powerful advocate for education. I also appreciate the friendship, and it's going to be different now, but with change comes good things. So appreciate your time. And then for 8 years.
Anytime a person puts themselves out to go through an election and be elected, and the salary is so great, we put a zero at the end of at the beginning or end in anywhere, that needs to be commended. So thank you for serving the students and staff of USD 230.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure and an honor to serve with you, Jason. It's been 8 years. I can't believe it's been 8 years. But a lot has changed since then. We now have five elementary schools. We just started our third middle school. None of those were we had one middle school and 2.5 grade schools,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Pretty
We've
much.
doubled grades. There's been a lot going on. Student achievement expectations have gone up every year. And so appreciate your voice and your focus on advocacy for students. And I know that you're completely committed to educating students.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for your support. It's been an honor and a pleasure serving up here, serving our students, our constituents, parents. I've also really enjoyed working with Dr. Burke, Dr. Gehring before, Mr. Wilson, all of the staff here at the district, especially working with teachers, both as a parent and as a board member. You guys are awesome, every one of you. Sorry if I get a little choked up here, but it's really been awesome to see the growth of this district, not just with buildings, but how we've pushed education. Bronco Hour was something nobody ever thought of, and now we put it in. Yes, we've had to make some modifications, but it's something that the students have really enjoyed and has really opened the way they think, the way we think. The last couple of years have been kind of challenging, but we've done our best to make it through. So I appreciate everybody and your hard work, your support, and I really want to give a special thank you to my family. They've supported me for the last 15 years, really. I've done carnivals, I've done site councils, and then the board stuff. So going to KASB, doing all that for weekends and national conferences. So they've been the most supportive people I've ever known. So appreciate everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Moving on to other recognitions, Dr. Burke.
I think Mr. Wimbold has something he wants to recognize.
I wanted to recognize the Spring Hill High School Band. We had a trip last week. I didn't know it was going to be a successful trip because I didn't know there were awards, but there were awards. So if everybody didn't know, we went to where the band went to, and I was out there helping them, support them. Went to Hawaii for the 80th commemoration of the Pearl Harbor attack. And while they were there, they performed on the port right next to the USS Missouri for all the patrons that were out there. They also were able to march in the parade. And I think there were 35 other bands that performed in that parade, and they came home with a grand champion of the parade trophy. So they were in my opinion, they sounded the best, they marched the best, and the judges agreed. So I really wanted to congratulate them, congratulate Mr. Woogie, Mr. Brumley. Thank you all to the sponsors, chaperones, fundraisers, all your donations. It was a very successful trip. They got to see Hawaii, even though it rained most of the time. So much, they measured it in feet instead of inches. There was that much rain. And so it was the sun came out when it needed to. So it was a great trip, and I really appreciate everybody's support on that too. So.
Sounded like Mr. Woogie was a little surprised as well when they announced it, I guess.
Yeah, I think we were a little surprised that there was something to
were
give,
awards,
and then
right.
we were also
Yeah.
surprised that we got it, so.
Good. But you know what? They're just focused on getting better and improving and pursuing excellence. And these are the kinds of outcomes that you have when you're not focused on the award. You're focused on getting better. You're focused on knowing that when you go in every day, you're going to leave a little bit better than you started. And I think Mr. Woogie and certainly the parents that support that, the other teachers and staff that support that emphasize that, or it wouldn't have happened that way. So a lot of congratulations to go all the way around. Very good. Moving on to, that was it, correct, Doctor? Moving on to business with individuals. I have one card just to work through really kind of the ground rules of business with individuals or public participation, is that we won't hear personnel issues concerning any student, employee, or group of students or employees in the district in open session. That happens in executive session. It's considered confidential by statute. We do allow 3 minutes. We have a maximum of 30 minutes. That's where that was coming from. But we do allow about right at 3 minutes. Katie Clare, our board clerk, will manage the time. So with that, it's Kelsey Prohl.
First of all, I want to say kudos to those middle school and high school kids for being up here and talking in front of adults, because I've been teaching for 15 years and I feel like I'm going to throw up because talking to adults is not my thing. So my name is Kelsey Prohl and I'm a first grade teacher at Spring Hill Elementary School and also a parent of 2 USD230 students. I noticed on the board docs that the mask mandate was up for discussion, and I would like to ask that while you are discussing the mask mandate, you please keep the current guidelines in place. In our classrooms, we strive to keep things consistent for our students. It keeps behaviors down, it increases academic achievement, and it gives the teacher more credibility as an authority figure. In short, consistency is key. Last year, teachers came to you and asked for consistency. You did not deliver. You went back and forth every meeting. This created confusion and mistrust. People were unable to rely on your credibility. In August, you voted to give parents the choice on whether or not their student should wear a mask. Changing things makes families who choose to have their child wear a mask even more uncomfortable sending their kids to school. It adds unnecessary burden on teachers. Right now, we know who will be masked and who won't be. Let parents choose and keep it at that. That's what you wanted. That's what you got. Please just leave it alone. Teachers are out of sick days. There are no subs. We literally cannot afford to get sick for more reasons than just the damage to our paychecks. We are exhausted. We need consistency. I'm sure that some of you will say that the teachers you hear from don't want masks. However, the teachers that do not agree with you aren't reaching out. They aren't reaching out because they are tired of not being heard or not listened to. We are not in this together. The building staff is in the trenches, left to deal with decisions made by others. My dad has been a high school principal and a superintendent for 55 years. I know the behind the scenes things that go on. I've seen the struggle an administrator and a school board goes through. I would never do an administrator's job. But I also care to wager that at this point, you wouldn't want to do my job either. This really isn't about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask anymore. This is about showing respect when decisions are made and sticking with it. Consistency. Can we please get through a school year without the loudest voices attempting to further their own agenda and make unnecessary changes? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelsey. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda, which consists of approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the minutes, approval of work session meetings, treasurer's report, payroll and claims, Clerk's report, personnel and insight, early graduation request, which is a good thing. Dr. Burke. Any comments on the insight? I know we had a conversation about it.
Anytime we get, first of all, Insight has really worked hard to get their graduation rates up. And I can only give credit to incredible amount of work that went into. And so see Mrs. Barton back there, she has really worked hard in doing this. And the fact that now we have kids not only graduating, because let's be honest, not everybody that comes to Insight has been successful. And so they've created a manner for those kids to be successful. But the fact that now we have kids graduating early is very, very commendable. So my only thought was, let's agree to this. Let's do it.
Right. So any questions, comments, concerns, or edits to the consent agenda?
I'll just make a comment on the letters wrote in for the early graduation. There's one particular young lady. Wow. What a success story.
Yeah.
It was really something.
Amazing.
It was amazing.
Great opportunity.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved in second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Winbull,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing.
Yes.
Approved.
Very good. Moving on to our action item for the orchestra trip. Dr. Burke.
The board is asked to approve the orchestra trip to Winter Park, Colorado, March 31st through August 3rd. Mr. Olzakinski is here to answer any questions. We think this is a really good reason and a trip for the kids. Not going to put any pressure on you, but grand champion is,
Yeah, I was gonna.
no pressure there, buddy, but good luck. We recommend that the board approve this trip.
Very good. Any questions on the orchestra trip to Winter Park? So 44 students, 7 chaperones.
41 and
41?
9 chaperones, including Mr. Euster and I.
Okay.
4 males, 5 females.
All right.
As approved as of this morning.
Okay.
And got deposited their first payments.
Very good. Any questions?
Great idea for a trip.
I'm excited to see the results.
Yeah.
Just knowing how much kids learn from all of these trips, having had several kids go on lots of different trips, I would move that the board approve the orchestra trip to Winter Park, Colorado, March 31st through April 2nd, right?
April 3rd, Sunday evening, we'll be back by.
And as presented.
Second.
It's moved in second to approve the orchestra trip as presented. Any final questions, comments? Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Winbull,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing. Yes. And Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Approved.
Very good. Have fun.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Moving on to discussion items. First item up for discussion is driver's education fees. Dr. Burke.
Yeah, and normally it's said that Doug Swin's going to be here. Those of you may not know, Doug just recently lost his father. And so our thoughts and prayers are with Doug and his family right now. Basically, this is the 5th year that our board or our district has been able to utilize our own fleet. We feel like the revenues continue to exceed expenditures. And our recommendation, and of course, we're sharing our data with our neighbors. We do allow, first of all, we cover all the in-district students first, and then if there's space, we do allow out-of-district students to come in to, we feel like this is a very beneficial program. So with that, we do not feel like there is a need to increase our cost. And so we're going to be able to keep the fees the same as it has in the last couple of years for the summer of 2022. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Does moving to the enterprise agreement help our driver's ed fees? Like keep them low?
I don't know that it helps us I don't think it helps us that much, but the one thing that's really nice is we're not doing the wear and tear on our vehicles that are going to continually be with us. So within a couple of years, we're trading those vehicles out and we're putting kids in brand new vehicles. So that, to be able to have that program is very, really nice. But that's really doesn't change the cost too much, but it does put our students in a newer and, in my mind, safer vehicle every year.
Any other questions or comments?
This looks like something that could continue to not have an increase as we increase in students.
Sure does.
Expense per student goes down. So,
Agreed. As long as we can get driver's ed instructors. Every parent knows what I'm about to say, but you got that 15-year-old that's right there behind the wheel. Boy, those people, there's a special place in heaven for them because wow. And they do an incredible job. So as long as we can continue to have instructors, we'll continue to provide this service for not only our kids, but the community outside as well.
Very good. Moving on to 175th and Lindenwood property, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Phil. Phil's got Phil Elliott has got a little bit of information and an update for you pertaining to that.
Good afternoon. We were contacted by the developer that's looking at purchasing the property east of our property at 175th between Ridgeview and what will be Lindenwood. They are working on a plan to develop that piece, and part of that needs to be the construction of Lindenwood. We'd always anticipated building Lindenwood prior to us doing anything with that property, so this isn't necessarily a surprise, but the timeline is what we need to get nailed down. Right now, their tentative plan is to start on the Merlin side and work west to Lindenwood. So it could be 2 to 4 years before they get there. But to get all the approvals and to make sure all of the rest of the design of the whole area is correct, they need to get Lindenwood design and penciled in. So what I'm got it before you tonight so that we actually have a meeting tomorrow with them just to talk about high level, where do we want the road to align, those kinds of things. I'm going to engage RIC, which is an engineering firm we've used on several of our recent projects, as kind of they're going to participate in tomorrow's meeting just because of our longstanding relationship. And then once we have a plan, I may be bringing a contract back to you specifically to have them do some design work and oversee the design that's being proposed by the developer to make sure that we don't end up in a bad place down the road. So some of the alignment discussions are going to be, do we leave the tree row as a buffer? Do we, which side of the tree row does the road go on? Some of those kinds of things are what we're going to be talking about. But there is a drainage issue in this area. So we need to make sure that we're being very cognizant of that and what the road does to that. And so that's why I want to engage an engineer. So again, this is more as an FYI. I've included the concept map so that you can see what we kind of have tentatively down for developing the site and then what they're thinking about. I would note that the south half of their development is commercial, and that's per Olathe's master plan. So that where we have our middle school on the west, they would be commercial on the east. So that tree row buffer might be an important thing for us to keep. So we may be looking at swapping sides of the tree row for the road and that kind of thing. So any questions?
So if there was a point when, or there probably will be a point when you would have a contract with an engineering firm, where does that money come from? Would it be capital outlay money?
At this point, that's what we would do. Unless there's some money left in the bond, we could do it as part of our land acquisition funds. We would then also be developing a plan to pay for that on our half of that road. So part of it will be some traffic study stuff and things like that we would just pay in preparation, all things that the city's going to require anyway. And we will be able to pay for it over time, more than likely, or at least start using capital outlay dollars to build a budget to pay for it. So.
Phil's got a couple of good ideas, maybe giving a little bit of land with the trees on it and give that away and then have them pay for the part of the road. So we get to keep the trees, we get to keep the buffer, and then they would use that money. So he's got a lot of great ideas.
I got a lot of ideas. We'll see if they're great or not.
In your experience with this, it's, I'm reading here that they haven't actually even bought it yet. Do you think that timeline is going to hold?
Yeah,
you will.
they are actively seeking. I mean, they're investing a significant amount of money in it. They're doing some due diligence exercises prior to closing.
Okay. So it's closing. Gotcha.
Do you think that have they talked about Lindenwood being a benefit district?
So the city of Olathe, in no uncertain terms, is not going to do any more benefit districts.
Okay. I know that there's been pushback on benefit districts all through the city of Olathe, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, and the most recent one next to Woodland Spring caused a little consternation in the neighborhood. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Moving on to discussion item on the county mask mandate discussion. Ally?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for, thanks for your patience too. Let me just start by saying many of you have been really great over the last couple of weeks checking in on me after the accident that I have. And if I'm a little slow to speak, I apologize. I still am battling this head injury. So I'm just, if I say things more slowly, I apologize. Keith can kick me if I say anything crazy, but this is something that has been very important to many, many people. And we started talking about this, well, years ago, but 2 years ago, but also at the last meeting on November 8th. And thank you to Mr. Wilson and for the presentation that you did on test scores. And I know that took a lot of time and energy, as well as everyone that helped you with that too. There have been a lot of teachers that have reached out either way, parents that are reaching out to us either way. This feels like a discussion where everyone is pointing fingers between boards of education to the Board of County Commissioners, to the legislators, to who makes the decisions, where are the laws, what is the legality? And there haven't been a lot of clearly defined answers over time, and that's been really difficult. But what my concern is who's suffering the most in any of it, who has suffered the most in any of this COVID situation. And it's the students, it seems to me. And that's what we're hearing loud and clear from many parents. And I would like to clarify, we did not give parents choice at all. We are still following the Johnson County mandate. So we haven't given anybody any kind of choice. What we did do is allow parents to sign a medical mask exemption, that they had to write a diagnosis and sign and certify that this is exactly what their child has. So what we hear from many parents is, I don't want to lie about it. I don't want to just make something up and write something down. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to create any kind of turmoil. So it wasn't choice at all. It was actually a medical mask exemption. I mean, I just to use as an example, even with one of my own kids, he has severe hearing loss. His pediatrician said he needs a mask exemption. That is a medical mask exemption. So with that, I know that I don't want to speak for anybody else, so I'll just speak for myself. It is seems highly inappropriate to me. It always has, that the Board of County Commissioners would put a mask mandate only for students that are during a school day at school. If they really were concerned about a mask mandate about kindergarten through 12-year-olds, then why isn't it everywhere in the community? Why is it only while they're in a school building? We see them everywhere, all over town, all over everywhere, not wearing a mask. They're just targeting our kids in school. And so is it just because I just don't want kids to wear a mask? That has nothing to do with it. But when we are seeing severe increase in mental health, especially in K through 6th grade for anxiety, new onset anxiety and depression, than we've ever seen in our state, in our county, in our country, that I think we have to take that into account. But then also when we looked at the test scores, but most importantly, before I go to the test scores, one of the things I wanted to point out, and one of our county commissioners did send it to us today, and Katie sent it out to all of us. We have had 70 total 0 through 18-year-olds hospitalized ever in Johnson County since March of 2020. That's total. So we are just a little bit over 0.04% of negative outcomes. Yes, we have positive tests, but a positive test doesn't always equal a positive illness, and it certainly does not equal positive hospitalization or deaths, thank God, and that. But I feel like we have responsibility, and I think that the thing that is bothering me the most that I just can't get out of my head, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, but now we have additional test scores too. When we looked last month at the test scores that are on KSDE that are legally reported there, we aren't looking at just the FastBridge test scores from the beginning of this year, from the fall, but looking back, and we know that there's 4 levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 and level 2 are, or level 1 at below grade level, level 2 at grade level, but needs remediation, level 3 at grade level, and level 4 college ready. And KSDE looks at, we have a board member here, thank you. I see that we have a Board of Education member in the audience. KSDE looks at level 3 and level 4 is the goal. So when we're only looking at level 1 and 2, I have big concerns with this and want to keep this in the forefront of our minds. Looking at, just using the information from last month, level 1 and level 2, 56.9% of all students fall in level 1 and level 2 in our district. That means under grade level or needs remediation. 3rd grade, 60.7%, 4th grade, 53%, 5th grade, 57.1%. These are concerning, and I'll send this to Katie to send out, and I know some people are writing furiously, but along with just the KSDE Department of Education, the accountability report, and how it talks about just level 3 and level 4, and all that's been reported, and it talks about the definition, successful Kansas high school graduates would be college ready. It has the academic preparation, cognitive preparation, technical skills, employability skills in post-secondary education, and the attainment of an industry recognized certification or in the workforce without the need for remediation, meaning level 2, where it says needing remediation, is not the goal for KSDE. So goal for KSDE is levels 3 and level 4, and to have over 50% of our students that are struggling, that's concerning to me. And it isn't because of the teachers. It isn't because of, we have the best, the most amazing staff that are doing their best. But when we have teachers, just like the email that we sent, we read last time, we've heard it from multiple teachers, they cannot teach phonics with a mask on. They're having a hard time deciphering between an M and an, I think they said an M and an N, a B and a D. Then this is what's concerning to me. So I know that there was some conversation about an accreditation scare, and if accreditation could be, and again, we are following the mandate. So we're not even looking at a legality right now of if we're following the mandate or not. But I did print, I'll pass them out to you. I thought it was very interesting. It's an email chain between our representative Adam Thomas and the chair of the House K through 12 budget and Dr. Watson. He had sent the email that Jason had sent to us from Dr. Watson on to the state of Kansas revisor. And what their determination was is that it is not any kind of legality, mostly because in order for it to be a crime, you have to break a law. If you're going to commit a crime, you have to have broken a law. In order for it to be a law, it would have to be a law passed into place by our legislators, and that has yet to happen. So it isn't something illegal that we're looking at for what we've done already with the mask mandate, or what we're looking for moving forward. With that, I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think that I would hope that this is something because of mental health, because of test scores, because of social emotional, because of all the things we've talked about. I hope that this is a conversation we can always be looking for, because we want to do what's best for these kids. Why else are we up here if we're not trying to do what is best for these kids? And I don't want to fail them. And I feel like if I don't keep bringing it up, then they should feel like I'm failing them. So that's why I keep bringing it up. It does not have to be mutually exclusive, though, that we work from it up here as a Board of Education and also the Board of County Commission. I wanted to publicly thank Jason Winbolt actually for encouraging a couple of meetings ago. You had said something that had really rung true for me. when you said that we should we be leveraging the Board of County Commission? Like, why should we reach out to them as a board? I mean, because they have made, if they could make the decision or change the decision, that would make everything better, right? We know that. So I was honored to work with, now it's 31 locally Johnson County elected people, and we did write a letter to the Board of County Commission. All of us up here, we're not on that letter because I can't call and talk to all of you about it because that's a coma violation, right? So I couldn't reach out to all of you. So the only two of us are on that, Nels and I are on that, but that doesn't mean that you guys wouldn't agree with what the letter said. It just meant that I couldn't reach out to you in that. But I'm happy to report that since we sent that letter from now 31 elected people, we have gotten a good response. Today from Chairman Eilert, he asked that the health order be discussed on the December 16th meeting, so this week. So that's good and positive. I heard back from Commissioner Hanslick that she is looking towards that too. Commissioner Allenbrand has said as soon as everyone can be fully vaccinated and the goal is that we could maybe unmask the kids before second semester. And by second semester, all 5 and up will be able to be fully vaccinated. So Commissioner O'Hara and Commissioner Ashcraft are all on board with that too. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen, but this is the only time I can share any of that with you. So I'm happy to share that positive news with you. But I did want to keep this discussion on the table with the primary reason of, I just want to do what's best for the kids. When it comes to phonics, teaching, learning, test scores, mental health, social, emotional, all of that, what the parents are telling us, what the teachers are telling us, it just isn't acceptable. So, and there's no finger pointing. Nobody predicted COVID. How could we have ever predicted that this was going to happen? But I think we hold responsibility here.
Any other comments or discussion?
I guess I would ask that it sounds like a lot in the schools want to keep masks. What can we do? Can we do something different to still teach phonics, like face shields or an area, maybe filming the phonics or something? I mean, it's virtually impossible to teach it with a mask on. I mean, if teachers are wanting to keep masks, and maybe there's something different that we could still teach phonics in a slightly different way.
Well, when you make a statement like it's virtually impossible, what's that based off of? Because
you can't see anybody's mouth moving with a mask on.
But you can teach people to speak that can't see. So I just want to be careful when we make a term out loud in public that it's virtually impossible. And we've been doing it for a year and we've been doing pretty well. So to say that
obviously we're not as well as we were before is all I'm saying. If you can't teach it as well, that's probably a better way.
Then I'm fine with that. But when you say something like virtually impossible, that makes it sound like we're doing a horrible job. And to be quite honest, we've been doing a hell of a job in a really bad situation. And so when we make a term like that, that incites people to get excited and get upset. And then it seems to be based on fact. I just want to be careful what we say there.
Poor choice of words.
You did bring up something that I wanted to say too. I will never be against somebody wanting their own choice. If somebody wants to wear a mask to school, then they absolutely should have the option to. But also just looking at, I think our district has done such a fantastic job in many ways, but especially in our COVID numbers. Look at our COVID numbers comparatively. I mean, our numbers are down. We look good, especially comparatively by percentage. So some people might call us the guinea pig for not having secondary and masks at all, but look what the outcome has been. So I'm not sure why we're keeping our K-6 and them in masks as well.
I will tell you, my biggest concern is accreditation. And so when we have it in writing from Randy Watson and from Deputy Commissioner that we're jeopardizing our accreditation, that means you're jeopardizing these kids who graduate here to come from the school. You take that accreditation part off the table and you get it in writing from those two guys that put it in writing that it's a problem, then by all means go against the mandate. But I mean, day in, day out, our job is to educate the kids in an accredited environment. If it's not accredited, then, I mean, it's not just that. It's the fact that, so our teachers basically work in an unaccredited school, so their capers for a year is off.
Sure.
So they lose that time that they worked. Our kids are coming from an unaccredited school, so when they graduate, they have to put on documentation that's unaccredited. So it's not just that, it's that accreditation part that scares us to death. And if the board decides to vote on that, in order to protect our licensure, I have to publicly denounce what you're doing just to protect our licensure and protect the school and say the board's going on your own. Whether I personally agree with it or not, that accreditation scares me to death. And to me, if the county commissioners is going to be talking about it on the 16th, and hopefully they'll be moving to remove it, great, I love it. But I'm just not sure what we're gaining if we go against the mandate and accreditation is still a question. That scares me.
So I completely agree. I would never suggest we'd go against accreditation, which is why I'm happy to have this email and from Dr. Watson that came to Adam Thomas. It says, well, I'm not a lawyer. I want to look into this. And this was after the email he sent to us. So nowhere am I saying, let's go against accreditation, go against the mandate. I'm not even suggesting that. We're following the mandate right now. But I do think it's interesting that even Dr. Watson saying up in this, and I'll forward this to Katie so it can be publicly published, that where he says, while I'm not a lawyer, I'll share with you what the council is telling me right now. So what this is telling me is nobody actually really knows what the legality is, because the revisor for the state of Kansas is saying he does not believe that it's any kind of legality. This is an email chain with Dr. Watson and Adam Thomas and various people. So I'm not necessarily, and I hope that the county commission does come, if they put it even on I don't think the public understands that we sent a letter the day before. It wasn't going to be the next day voted on. We knew that it would then be on the schedule, hopefully for the 16th, then maybe voted on the first week of January, because that's our next meeting. It doesn't happen. We know that overnight, but by no means am I saying, let's go against what Dr. Watson is saying and jeopardize our accreditation. What I do think is that he's not sure from the emails that I'm reading and receiving if it is a legal issue or not. And I think what is the bottom line to it for me at the end of the day is what's best for the kids. What is best for the kids? And how can we get them to hear us, to understand? I can't just sit around and point fingers anymore and say, well, it's the Board of County Commission, it's their fault, or it's the legislators, it's their fault. What can we do? If it means we keep putting pressure or communicating, sending, I mean, the teachers and parents that are sending emails to me, I'm asking them if I can forward them on, and then because how would the Board of County Commissioners even understand what a teacher thinks? So I'm forwarding those on. I'm forwarding at least one on a day from a teacher. Asking, saying, what's going on with this? Can I tell you about, and then I'll ask them, tell me what you're seeing in the classroom. So how would I know that too, right? So I'm definitely not asking for our accreditation to be jeopardized. I would never, ever ask that. I just want this conversation to stay on the table so that we do what's right for the kids.
Well, and I think having it on the Board of the board, it's actually Board of Public Health, right? They're doing this in the capacity of the Board of Public Health, which has the authority to do mandates. Right. But having those conversations with them, elevating their awareness and understanding of what's going on, I think that's where that's where those conversations need to be had. When I got a little lost in your or I didn't clearly understand, you made a statement of 56 point something % of students. I mean, I looked up to level 1, level 2. I didn't see where level 2 mentioned remediation. It was more around has the ability. And the 56%, when I go back and look at I pulled out the presentation, the 56.9 was the state level. Well, and that includes level 1, level 2, where when you look at our 2021 numbers, they're like for level 1, that's the remediation, they're half of what the state value percentages are.
So those numbers came right from the presentation that Brad presented to us last time, the 56 point.
Yeah,
and I'll send you the screenshots from KSDE that says level 2 is needs remediation.
All right, I looked and it's not.
I have them. But I'll send them to Katie right now.
Right. Any other conversations or discussion?
Just the only thing that I would like to say is that I know this this whole topic is just very emotional for a lot of people. And I think that one of the things that I've really tried to do is to stay in our lane. And so in some ways, I'm not sure it's that productive to keep this discussion going on at this level right now. Because if the county commissioners are going to revisit it, I know I didn't really appreciate it when we had a county commissioner and a state rep and a state senator here telling us what we should do with what our authority was. And I don't think they really appreciate hearing from people that are in other jurisdictions telling them what they should do either. I think it's kind of counterproductive. I had some discussions before the first time they voted on it, and I felt like it made it worse. So I just want everybody to feel respected and that we know that there's varying degrees. I have a daughter that's an elementary school teacher, and she is struggling to even know whether she wants to stay doing this. She's had a really rotten experience. So I know we have tons of really good teachers, and I know that they're in the trenches every day, and it's hard. I hear about it every day, and I'm not personally experiencing it, but I just want everybody to feel like their opinion's valid, and that unless we're going to go do a intricate survey, we don't really know where everybody stands on everything. So I think we need to wait and see with the commissioners and hope. I do see with the commissioners, their one big whereas statement was, it was all about the vaccination of children. So I think if they're going to stick to what they passed the mandate as the Board of Public Health for, and that has changed, then they will reverse it. It's just a logical thing to do.
And, you know, as far as the mandate goes, you say that it's not a law, but it's based on law. It's based on the Public Board of Health. The Public Board of Health can actually create mandates that are supported. It's essentially a county ordinance with a Class C misdemeanor attached to it if we don't follow it. All of those things make it a law. Whether representatives, senators can say whatever they want. The guy at the person, that rules on laws for the state of Kansas can say whatever they want. It is a law by fact. And if we choose to not follow the law, that will have real ramifications for this district and for the 7 of us up here. We can be charged with a Class C misdemeanor.
Has anybody asked not to follow law here yet?
If we vote not to follow the mandate.
Are we voting? And has
No.
anybody asked?
I'm just saying at some point, if you made a motion to not follow the mandate previously. If we continue down that road, then we would be breaking the law. And the 7 of us, if we voted for that, could be charged with a Class C misdemeanor.
You know what? Bring it. It is what I want to do what's best for the kids. And that just for me, if you want to bring me a Class C misdemeanor because I want to do what's best for the kids, I'm okay with that. Bring me that. But I'm not asking anybody to violate a mandate. I'm not asking anybody to do anything illegal. I'm asking this board to try to do what's best for the kids. And
what if that's illegal?
And I'm saying have a discussion. How is having a discussion?
We can have a discussion.
You're trying to shut down the discussion to do what's best for the kids, and I don't.
No, time out here a minute. I think we all have different opinions. I think this is what discussion is about. I think it's about
totally agree.
Having different ideas, different thoughts, and a different input, and having those discussions and talking through the differences in opinions. And I firmly believe that's one of the things that makes me feel good about this board is I don't question anyone's commitment. We have a moral imperative here, and that's to educate students. And I think all 7 of us, I think the administration, I think our teachers and staff fully buy into that. And I think that's what our focus is. So the discussion has to have different viewpoints, different opinions. That's how advancements and improvements get made, and we come to a consensus on things. So with that, are there any further comments? Okay.
I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Moving on to KSB Support Services, Dr. Burke.
You know, sometimes you work your whole life and you get to a point that you dread something for a long time, and then all of a sudden it's here. And I've been kind of dreading this for a while. But, so I made the decision to retire as a superintendent of Spring Hill USD 230 at the end of the current school year. And let me get through this because I'll probably get a little emotional. So during the last board meeting, I discussed with the board that I would wait till this evening to make this announcement. And I did that so the board would have some time to get options. I didn't want to just throw it on them and not give them time to make options or have options. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for this incredible opportunity. So thank you. This has been awesome. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank the community. Well, I'm going to cry a little bit. I apologize. I'd like to thank the community for supporting me and working with me, giving us a shot. I'd like to thank the parents of this community for entrusting their children to us to do what's best and do it in a safe manner. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank the teacher, staff, and administration who daily go above and beyond every day for our kids. So thank you. I'd like to thank my wife and children for being my support and dealing with being the family of a superintendent. Never easy. But lastly, but very importantly, I want to thank the students of this district. You guys are awesome. You're incredible. You're caring human beings. The world's going to be a better place because of you. So with that, I'm going to shut up and wipe my tears and thank you for an incredible journey. So love this place, but it's time for the board to look at different leadership but don't want anybody to ever speak for me. What I said there is what I said, and I appreciate all of that. But thank you for giving me this incredible opportunity. So with that. Thank you, but we got work to do. So we did ask Doug Meckel. He is from KSB, and he can share some information with you and give you some options.
Well, first, can we have Greg give us kind of run down some of the options that are available to us?
I apologize, I jumped right in.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right. We'll get the KSB representative up here very quickly. As I talked to the board during the last meeting a little bit, picking the superintendent is one of the most critical functions of a board of education. It is probably the most important thing you do as part of the determining how the day-to-day operations of your school district run and how they function. There are a variety of ways you can go about engaging in the selection process. One of those is to simply yourselves take on the task of searching for and ultimately selecting candidates for a superintendent. That is not a task that boards of education are very well equipped to do because you can only act during a public meeting. It's very difficult to get together. You don't have the expertise to do the vetting of candidates based on qualifications, the advertising, all those types of things that become sort of day-to-day operations of trying to gather up and find an appropriate panel of superintendent candidates to interview and look into. There are also private entities that will engage in those services for a school district. And if that was something you wanted to look into, those service options could be solicited through an RFQ process or an RFP process where you could engage, advertise for that, get proposals in and evaluate those. The difficulty with that process is, frankly, it will take a length of time to do that. And it also will not necessarily get you the best candidates. It just depends upon what you're looking for in terms of what that candidate pool looks like. You are members of the Kansas Association of School Boards. It's a Kansas entity. It is an entity that operates and provides superintendent search services. They do a very nice job of doing that. Because you're already a member, those services still are something you would have to pay for, but they would be a neutral entity that does have the expertise to do that. And as part of our discussion, we've invited somebody from KSB to be here tonight to give you presentations on that as one of the options that you would look at, and frankly, to give a proposal if that's something you're interested in doing. I do recommend that's probably your best option, but if you want to explore other options in terms of what that looks like, we can talk about that as well. So with that in mind, unless there's any specific questions of me, I'll let the gentleman from KSB take over.
Just so to review in my head a little bit is we can do it ourselves.
You can do it yourselves.
There's limitations. Downside of that is having to, is time, number one. Number
Time
two,
and expertise, I think is a big piece of it.
We don't know how to do that, right? I mean, then that's not what we do as a game.
It's tricky to navigate even the process of trying to solicit applicants for that process, keep that confidential, to share the information. I mean, you would have to be meeting constantly to get that pulled off. And that's just a very difficult thing for a sitting public body to do without a recommendation coming from somebody that's got some expertise doing it.
And that typically happens, that would be split between executive sessions and open meetings. I assume,
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So it's a much slower process.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the second is request for proposal or request for quotation or
Right.
qualifications. And that's like a national organization that would look.
You could solicit proposals from different entities. There are different headhunting organizations or professional executive hiring companies out there that will come in and for a fee, usually a pretty good fee, will go out and do either national or regional searches for potential candidates for you. And they have different levels of success. Sometimes they'll pull in candidates from all over the country, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. But I think that one of the issues that I have seen over time with those search companies, and some of them do a very nice job. If that's what you're looking for, we certainly can put together an RFQ for you to do something like that. But the issue that you run into there is oftentimes they don't have expertise in Kansas as to what the Kansas rules are, as to what the Kansas regulations, what Kansas budgetary requirements are, what you might be looking for in a superintendent that maybe has some degree of expertise. And KSB, if you select them to do this service for you, and they can speak to that better than I can, they also will have the ability to attract and advertise for candidates from the national level who would have some interest perhaps in located to the Kansas region to serve as a superintendent. So you're not going to be foreclosed from that, but you're probably going to get something a little more geared, a little more tailored to a Kansas school district than you are from a more regional or national approach.
Okay. And then in that line of consultants of outside, Kansas Association of School Boards this is a service line, right?
They've got a service. Service is the best way to call it and describe it. And that because it's a service, it's not something you have to go out for an RFQ or an RFP for. You can select services just based upon the board's presentation or consideration of that. You guys are long-term members, as is, I believe, every school district in the state, members of the Kansas Association of School Boards. It is one of the membership services they provide. It does have additional cost to it because it's an additional service they do beyond the ordinary process, but you've all gone to meetings with KSB, you've all attended trainings, you kind of understand how that organization operates. So that's one of the options you would have as well.
Okay.
So with that in mind.
And that's kind of all encompassing. We got three choices, or
those are really your three choices.
Good.
That you have.
All right. We got a 33% chance of getting it.
You do.
Right.
Maybe a little bit better. So.
Oh, I think we got a lot better chance. I think this is a group that will make a good decision.
Good afternoon, or evening now, evening. When I watched the students present and I realized that they were going to have to bend down to talk into the microphone, I knew I was going to have trouble. But I appreciate you spending a little time with us. It's always interesting to watch the challenge of the work of a board. You're here to serve students, and I've understood you talk about that Your passion is evident. And how do you make that happen? So a couple of things I would tell you, I just passed the search process booklet to you, something for you to review. Within that packet is a letter of introduction to talk about what the search service is like and how it works for the board. A second letter is a sample contract. And then the third letter within that packet is a proposed timeline. Several things I would tell you and that you need to hear from me. First of all, the most important thing any board does is establish a vision and a mission for the district. The second most important thing you do is to hire the right superintendent to accomplish that and execute that. So in the case of Wayne, I know you've worked very hard to make that happen. Dr. Burke, I apologize, I said Wayne. Dr. Burke, and I know you want to continue that process. So what we do is help you make that happen. So we are Kansas-based. We do have a national portion as well. So our search will go nationwide, but it'll be focused on bringing people into Kansas for you. We have several aspects that we think are really critical that set us apart from other services. The first one is that we work for the board. We don't work for the candidates. We work for you. And the second one is we're with you from the beginning till the very end. As long as you're a member of KSB, we will be at your side to try to help you. So I've worked with many of you before. I know some of you from our years gone by, planning, long-range planning. I know we have some new members as well, but maybe it would be easiest to let me see if you have any questions first, and then I can walk you through basically the process at your leisure.
I think let's just jump into the process. If the board's willing to just step into the process to understand, I think it's important for us to get an idea of what the overall search process is.
Okay, well, on page 1 is simply just an introduction about who we are and what we do. We are the number one search service firm in the state of Kansas. Page 2 talks about all the reasons that you should consider using us. It basically starts with the process that we've been doing this for a long time, nearly 50 years. We are the people that have administrators who have connections to administrators throughout the state. We work with superintendents and school boards from numerous communities in the state to serve that. We work specifically with you. It's a board-driven process. So we're flexible as we work that with you, but at the same time, we'll provide you the resources that you'll need to make that search possible. As we work with you before, during, and after the process, meaning we will help you set the stage, we'll spend time with you relating to the procedures that all boards go through. We'll help you there during the process, during the search itself, and then we'll be here for you afterwards as we do goals and expectations and work that process with whoever your new candidate or new superintendent is. Probably the most important thing we do is we gather lots of information for you. We want to make sure we find out what your stakeholders are interested in and looking for. So we do that in multiple ways. One is we'll do a survey that will be spread district-wide so that everyone has a chance to identify the characteristics and the desired skills they're looking for in the new superintendent. And then we'll also come in and spend time in focus groups that you select. That would be generally, it consists of your faculty and staff. It would be your administrative team. It would be your students that you'd like us to meet with. And we gather that information and we compile a list of criteria that identifies what the community says is important for the characteristics of the new superintendent. In that same timeline, we come back and share the same conversations we have with you and gather your insights as well. When we say it's the board's job, it is the board's job to make this ultimate decision, but we make sure we want to give you a lot of input so you can make the best decision possible. Once we've done that, we will spend time running the search literally through KSB, and we mentioned the term confidentiality. People do not apply if their name is out on the web. People don't apply if they're going to read it in the local newspaper. They're going to want to make sure that confidentiality is critical because there's multiple reasons they want to keep that private until they decide if they're going to be selected as a potential candidate by you. And then obviously it becomes something that becomes public knowledge once they're finalists. As we work through that, so that we gather all of the applications come through us. We have a vetting process in which we do a national background check to make sure that wherever they have been, they have been successful, both as a leader and then obviously the criminal background checks as well. So there's a wide range of candidates now. The demand is really high and the supply is really short. I'm sure you've heard that in our state, but nationwide. But we generally have a district like it's a growing district, it's a thriving district like Spring Hill is going to have a nice applicant pool. We never know the total numbers. They range anywhere from 10 to 25. We never know how many applicants we'll have, but we'll make sure that it's known nationwide so that people who are interested in coming to Kansas have a chance to access this application. What other questions might you have?
I've got a few, but I'd open up to the board to certainly ask any questions. What's typical timeline? Is it a month? Is it 18 months? Is it
No,
6 months?
That is a great question. There was a time when most searches didn't even start until January, and they might run for 8 weeks. Now there are searches that are already open, as you probably are well aware of. So generally a timeline is going to be something around 8 weeks because that's the length of process. It's not that it can't be done in a month, because they are. It depends on what you get to choose, or you would choose to do that. We put together a timeline basically that would begin in as soon as you've notified, it would begin in early January and close the first week of end of February, first week of March would be that. So generally it's about 8 weeks at this time of the year. Towards the very end of the season, which would be that search season, would be the something that starts as late as May, oftentimes where people will run it for a month, but that timeline is variable. It's what you choose. If you have some urgency and would like to go 6 weeks, that's very possible.
Is that for the whole process, or is that for the whole process or the gathering information?
That's the whole process. Okay. That's from when you post the position, an application process begins, and if you choose to go 8 weeks, we will begin the survey. We will come in and gather characteristics, and we will have applications gathered and ready to deliver to the board at the end of February and early March.
Say that again.
We would have applications ready for you to review by the end of February or the 1st of March.
Okay, and then so that's, call it a phase one. Phase two is the conversations that I'm assuming KSB would facilitate with the board on those applications.
That's correct.
And is there a range of duration for that next phase of it?
One, depending on how many candidates you choose to interview, basically a board is going to spend time with us 3 times, with us specifically, and then you will then spend time together interviewing the number of candidates that you choose. Generally, boards choose to interview anywhere between 3 to 5 candidates. Each one of those interviews is basically a day-long process for the district and an evening process for the board together. So it takes, if you choose to interview 5, you'll have to spend 5 times together as a board interviewing candidates. Their sample, we have a handbook that we will bring to you if you choose to use this, that literally walks you through step by step of the interview process. It gives you sample interview questions you can't ask at interviews, so that for the legal ramifications. And literally you will have a chance to, we'll walk you through that handbook so that it'll be, we often refer to it as it's a process that guides your step by step.
So that's another, you think of scheduling 3 to 5 days with the entire board, right? Typically we meet with the whole board. I mean, I would want this to be a full conversation with the whole board.
Yes, it's 3 to 5 days, depending on the number of candidates. If you select us, we will come back and set up a time to meet with you to provide the handbook and walk you through the search process handbook and explain how that works. We'll come in and spend time with you establishing focus groups. We'll plan the survey if you choose to use us. Then once we do that, then the search process begins literally with the application. The application is run through it's online. It's then people will put their resumes together, gather information, their letters of recommendation. They submit those to us. We'll set a date when we come back to spend time with you, but it would be with your community during the day for the focus groups. We'll gather the survey data. And then that evening, we would have to spend time with you as a board again, the whole board, and share with you all the information that we heard from those survey groups and from the focus groups. And we'll then turn right around and ask you the same questions so that you'll know exactly, these are the things that we heard. These are the things that you guys need to make sure that you compile so that we know this is what the community is looking for. This is what the board is looking for. And at that point, remember, the search is continuing. And at that point, we will set a date in which we come back with you with the finalist finalist recommendations. But remember, the board chooses your finalists, but our job is to find the best people to match your characteristics, your desired characteristics. So we would bring them to you. They would have already been vetted with a background check, and we will know what their skills are when they come here. We will spend time with you explaining their background, what they've done well, the challenges that they will be working through, and then we would make that recommendation. Ultimately, the board chooses the finalists. Our job is just to recommend them. And then you'll spend the days that you set. Generally, it's the evenings for the board, but you'll have to put together someone to help host candidates as they tour this growing district. You know, I do remember when we weren't this big. They'll be touring this district, meeting staff, getting a chance to meet the admin team. And then that evening, generally, they come in and they spend an evening with you, often a dinner, a social interaction, and then sit down to have an interview, a series of interviews with you to determine who the best candidate is. So if you do that, if you select 5 to interview, you do that 5 times. If you select 3, you do that 3. So that would really be at the board choice. And we can talk about in those details as we move further down the process.
Any other questions or comments?
Sounds like a well thought out process. But obviously works. So.
Well, again, without me going through the advertising, we do a lot of searches, and we continue to do a lot of searches for multitudes of districts throughout the state and an assortment of sizes, from very, very to large like you to very small. We do them work to districts that have, well, 300 students, which is not an elementary here.
I'm just wondering if I'm remembering correctly, but when we hired Dr. Burke as the assistant superintendent, didn't we use a KASB search for that? Did we not?
No.
No. Okay. We did.
We did when you guys hired Dr. Burke, we did come in and spend the day doing focus groups and gathering information, and we visited with the board through that part of the process. I believe it was 5 years ago? 7. Oh, man. 7. I'm getting old. Days.
So, Doug, I have a question. So the 3 options were we would pick on our own.
Yeah.
We would go, which I'll just go on record and say that sounds overwhelming and no, thank you.
Right.
Number 2 is have KSB help with this process. And the third one was
to go out, we'd put a request for proposal or request for qualifications on the street. We'd submit it to other firms that outside of Kansas, there's certain firms that do these, so it's executive searching. And so we would go through a process to determine which group or which organization we would like to conduct that. And then we'd have to vote on it. Then we have to go through a contract negotiations and sign them up.
Okay.
And they would have I'm not really familiar. I mean, this is new to me as well, certainly. But I know there's basically superintendent search firms out there that could provide support, but we'd have to go through a vetting process of asking for their qualifications as well as a proposal,
Okay.
costs, fees, things like that. So,
Well, I mean, I think on page 1, the most important statement is selecting a new superintendent is the single most important decision the board will make.
right. Mhm.
So I would like to have a chance to read through this and understand it before voting on going forward with it.
Sure. Other thoughts?
I know we've had a lot of positive interaction with KASB. I know that anything we've asked them to do, they've done a good job with it.
My final thought for you, unless you have more questions, is it's in the spirit of Christmas, right? You remember the old movie in which a shopper went to Macy's and they didn't have what they needed and they sent them to Gamble's. I don't know if you remember that movie or not. What I would tell you this, if you choose us, that's wonderful. But if you don't choose us, choose someone to help you. This is such an important process. And it's very difficult to try to do this on your own. So that's the Christmas spirit of make sure you use a search firm. We will be happy to be the search firm, but that's up to you.
Right. Other thoughts?
I guess I would be comfortable with going with KASB, but if people feel like we need some time to think, I think we need to do something soon and maybe call a special meeting to approve who we're going to use instead of waiting till our meeting in January. I think that might be a little long to wait. We need to get the process going. In my opinion. Just
I agree. When you said 8 weeks, I thought it changed my thought, but then that's just that's not the interviewing process and the vetting process. And there's an additional time. So that's 2 months. It's January, February, March, April, May, I mean, time starts getting short. But what's the consensus of the board? Special meeting, January. Now, those are kind of the 3 options.
I just would like to have a chance to just read through the information before
Mhm.
voting on it. I feel like it's not a responsible decision for me to vote on something I haven't read through yet.
Mhm.
I'd be up for a special meeting to make this decision before the January meeting. Really important.
I could vote now, I could vote at a special meeting. I'm okay with either option. I'm very familiar with KSB's search firm, so search process.
Yeah, I don't, not all of us are. I mean, I think there's merit in getting to understand what the typical process is, what to expect.
Yeah.
Right.
There is.
So.
I just don't want anybody feeling like they're being rushed to make a decision. Like if any of us need time to read over something, I think we need to take time to read over it and ask more questions if we need to.
Sure. So.
I was gonna say, any final questions?
Any other?
Here.
Thank you.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Doug.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
And keep us informed. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr.
There you go. Well, thank you very much. Well, what we will do is we will move on. We will skip that, the action item. We'll pause it until we determine the time of a special meeting so that we can still provide or give ourselves time to do this well. Items for Board of Education members for future meetings. I don't recall seeing anything that.
You guys will need, if you're gonna do a special meeting, you'll need to talk about that tonight. Otherwise, you're gonna be scrambling.
Right. So as far, I gotta get a calendar up here.
We have a conflict on Monday. The administrators have a conflict on Monday.
So then our next meeting is scheduled January 10th, correct?
Yeah, and I think we all agree that's too late. I mean, we need to be moving, I think, in January, early, and the 10th is almost mid-month.
You saying there's a conflict on the 20th?
Administrators, we have a party that will be scheduled. You don't want us to be there.
Yeah, we wouldn't need administrators here, honestly, right?
I started to say, as long as you're not going to broadcast it, we wouldn't have to be there.
Mhm.
But
Right.
All we're doing is discussing how we're gonna go about the search on that
Well,
meeting.
we'd be taking action. We'd be making a decision
But,
on
I
whether to.
mean,
What firm we're gonna use.
if it's, would we have to broadcast that if we were doing a short hour meeting?
We don't, I wouldn't
think
want
it's
it to
required.
look like it's not
Right.
transparent, but anybody could come that would want to come.
Right.
It would be an open meeting.
I'll be honest, I will probably have to Zoom regardless of when it is because
That's
I
fine.
will be in Wichita, so.
What about the 21st?
I cannot do the 21st.
So what days do we have available? 17th?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm available this week.
I started saying, what about later this week?
That's where I was at.
16th
16th?
is fine with me.
I have to Zoom. I have a library board meeting that night.
This, I wouldn't imagine this would be, what time is that library
The
meeting?
well, so we're doing two meetings in one because we had to miss the last one, so I don't know. For sure.
What
The
time is it?
27th, I mean, I have a board meeting on our calendar for the 27th only because it's an auto message. Normally we would if we weren't having. If we had two in December, we normally would have one the 27th. Would that work?
What?
I could do the 27th.
I can do the 27th. I could too.
Sure.
About the 22nd.
Might actually-
I think this is, we need to pull the trigger on it, honestly. I think we gotta get moving. That's why I'm leaning on earlier is better.
22nd would work for me too. as well.
Okay. Day after tomorrow.
The 15th.
That's the
15th.
15th.
Oh, 22nd. Yeah, I'm
The
sorry.
22nd would be next Wednesday.
Is that
Same.
Good.
You're good?
22nd?
Mhm.
That should work for me.
Well, you throw the 15th out.
This week is not.
22nd?
6 PM
Ish.
ish.
That sounds fine to me.
22nd at 6 PM, special meeting. Topic on the agenda is superintendent search. Here in this room, sounds like we'll have some people joining remotely, but the critical thing is that all seven of us are having the conversation. That's really what I think is important. I
Take some pressure off if you don't broadcast it.
don't, thoughts on broadcasting.
It doesn't
So I
matter.
feel like if we brought, I mean, I'm all for transparency for sure, but if it's an open meeting, anybody can
Mhm.
come and I hate to have Phil have another night that he has to come into.
Yep.
So we won't broadcast. Special meeting the 22nd, at 6 PM here. We'll provide a Zoom link. Katie or Candy will provide a Zoom link
We'll get you a
to the
Zoom.
board. And you have the agenda, right? Anything else you need, Katie or Candy?
You feel like you need to vote to second this special meeting?
Yeah, we need to establish that.
I
we do
moved the
that.
board schedule a
Well,
special meeting.
we need to move to modify the agenda. This is the loop we gotta go
Well,
through, right?
We can use the action item that we had.
Yep. You've already got a sitting action item.
Just call it support services rather than KSB support service.
Oh, fantastic. Let's go with an action item for support services to schedule a special meeting. Special meeting to determine superintendent support. Search support.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to establish it.
Jason.
Jason. To establish a special meeting on December 22nd at 6 p.m. Any discussion? Okay. Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Updike.
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing. Yes. Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Winbolt.
Yes.
Approved
Very
7-0.
good. Thank you. Items from Board of Education members for future meetings.
I think we have plenty.
Hmm?
I think we have plenty of.
I think
things on our
there's,
list.
yeah.
If there's anything you
Come.
need to remove that has my name on it, you can go for it.
Okay. Any additional items?
Oh, although I already asked for board vote or other options other than board docs, I hope that didn't still
No, I
move
think
forward.
that stays. We need to at least pursue our options, see what's available and out there.
Okay, that's it.
I think we should leave the lessons learned from gating criteria and COVID on there.
Sure.
And the
That's fine.
considered tennis court expansion, we're already doing. Well, we're
That's just
doing
for
refurb.
the next bond.
I think the ideas will remain, Jason.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting rid of it.
don't think we'll get rid of them. Board work calendar, Dr. Burt.
Yeah, we're right where we should be for December, routine business, KSC and convention, which was actually November this year. District fees, that'll come up in the future. Driver's ed, we took care of that today. And the convener's coming up as well. Some of you have signed up for that.
Okay,
Other than that, we're good.
good. Committee reports.
Wolf Creek had a site council meeting. I had a senior moment and missed it, but I will get the information and bring it next time.
Minutes. Good. Pardon me? Yeah. Any committee reports? Superintendent reports?
I think I've spoken enough, so let's shut this thing down and have our dinner.
We are adjourned.